Many people ask a simple question. If humans went to the moon more than 50 years ago, why haven't we gone back with all our advanced technology? To answer that, we have to go back to the beginning. In the 1960s, the world was divided. The United States and the Soviet Union were in a Cold War. They were not fighting directly, but they were competing in power, technology, and influence. Space became the biggest symbol of that competition. The main goal of the moon mission was not tourism or curiosity. It was proof of intelligence, proof of strength, proof that one nation could do what no human had ever done before. That mission was called Apollo 11, led by NASA. On July 16, 1969, a massive rocket called Saturn V launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It was powered by liquid oxygen and rocket fuel called RP-1 and liquid hydrogen. This fuel burned with extreme force, strong enough to break free from Earth's gravity. Inside the spacecraft were 3 men, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. It took about 3 days to travel from Earth to the moon. During that journey, they floated in zero gravity, slept in shifts, checked instruments, and corrected their path using small rocket burns. When they reached the moon, something important happened. The spacecraft split into 2 parts. One part, called the command module, stayed in orbit around the moon with Michael Collins inside. The other part, the lunar module, separated and slowly descended to the moon's surface. The lunar module did not land like an airplane. It hovered, searched for a safe spot, and gently touched down using rocket thrust. There was no runway, no landing pad, just dust, rocks, and silence. Neil Armstrong stepped out first and said the famous line about a small step for man. What he didn't say much about was the feeling. The moon felt dead, completely silent. No wind, no sound, just their breathing inside the suit. They stayed on the moon for about 21 hours, but they only walked outside for around 2.5 hours. While there, they collected moon rocks, took photos, set up experiments, and planted the flag. They also placed a reflective mirror that scientists still use today to measure the distance between Earth and the moon using lasers. They noticed things that felt strange. The dust stuck to everything because it was sharp and electrically charged. The sky was black even in daylight. The Earth looked small and fragile, hanging in the darkness. Some astronauts later said the moon smelled like burnt gunpowder when they came back inside the module. No one expected that. Now, how did they eat? They did not cook food. Their meals were packed in small sealed bags. They ate dehydrated food like beef stew, fruits, and soups. Water was added to soften it. They drank through tubes. It wasn't tasty, but it kept them alive. They slept strapped in place so they wouldn't float. Rest was difficult. Everything felt tight and uncomfortable. When it was time to leave, the bottom part of the lunar module stayed on the moon forever. Only the top part lifted off using its own fuel and rejoined the command module orbiting above. That return journey from the moon back to Earth took about 3 days. When they reached Earth, they didn't land on land. The capsule splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, where they were picked up by a Navy ship. They were placed in quarantine for weeks, just in case moon germs existed. So why haven't we gone back? Not because we can't, because the mission was never about staying. The technology used back then was built for one purpose only: beat the space race. After that goal was achieved, funding was cut, factories closed. The Saturn V rocket was never rebuilt. The knowledge wasn't lost, but the systems were abandoned. Modern technology is smarter, smaller, and digital. But going to the moon still costs billions. Governments chose to spend money on satellites, wars, Earth technology, and robots instead of humans on the moon. Now the interest has returned, not for flags, but for resources, water ice, power, a future path to Mars. So the truth is simple. We went to the moon because we needed to prove something. We didn't go back because we no longer felt the pressure. And now slowly humanity is preparing to return, not to visit, but to stay.